Michael Costa, why are the Liberals doing better?
Look, I think, Andrew, that you're reading too much into one poll, to be honest. You know, we had, 30-plus polls of Labor supposedly going to win the last election, and we know the result. I think what these polls don't pick up is the regional differences, and as we saw in the last election, they're still quite significant. I mean, Queensland particularly, and even in New South Wales. So I wouldn't read too much into this, but I do agree with you that the Morrison government needs a better economic narrative. You know, I think this sort of trend towards negative interest rates we're seeing globally is a real concern, and I see our Reserve Bank now is sort of being pushed to the forefront of running economic policy, and I think that's a mistake. I think the government does need to get on top of microeconomic reform. I know it's a term that people don't like to hear, but we do have structural problems in the economy, and I think they do need to do some things in that area. But generally, I think you're reading too much into the poll, Andrew.
No, I did say the poll flattered Labor, and I agree with you. I don't think if the election was rerun now, Labor would win. But the point is, the three things I've isolated are problems that the Liberals need to address.
I don't know, Andrew, it's one poll. On many years of politics...
leave the polls to one side.
Is
the
Morrison
problems
smug? No. Is the economy struggling? Of course, we know that. I mean, you look at retail sales for a start. Household debt, extremely high. So, you know, that's obviously the number one issue and always has been. But you put that against what Labor were offering, and the poll will be back at 52.
Look, I tend to agree with you. And, you know, look, it's 2.5 years to go. And I agree. I'm not going to do a poll watch like, you know, every poll. Inflection is going to be big news. But that said, Michael, what I'm really saying is there are things there, weaknesses that the Liberal Party has to address, and you mentioned one of them.
Absolutely. Look, I do think the economy, something needs to be done. I mean, we're seeing too much emphasis on some sort of housing recovery to push the economy along. Hence the focus on interest rates. I think that's a wrong strategy. We don't want to go back to the property boom as the basis of our economic growth, and there needs to be some long-term policies put into place. Having said that, remember, Labor can't even work out why it lost the last election, Andrew. You know, you're seeing brawling going on in Labor about who was really responsible, and I think that shows that they're just in disarray. They couldn't even run an election campaign if it came on quickly. So I think, you know, they've got time, the government, to put together a strategy, but I agree with you, they need to focus on the economy.
Yeah, Michael, we know why they lost the election. It was all Bill Shorten's fault.
Yeah, that's right.
It's very obvious. It had nothing to do with the policies, nothing to do with the Darnie, nothing to do with, you know,
that's what really it's really been a Kill Bill strategy in the post.
Not Penny Wong, by the way. It wasn't her fault. Not Tanya Plebiscik. They're still there. Where are they on the... It was all Shorten's fault.
Remind me, wasn't there a whole shadow cabinet sitting around this table?
No, Shorten decided all of this himself, and
they complained. I remember all the more complaints.
It's all his fault. You know, as I said the other day, if you'd said to someone, by the way, if you'd said to someone, if you'd said to someone on the Friday, listen, we won't have time to do one after the election because we'll be in government. Can you just quickly draft something up so we can release it on Monday? It would have said what a genius Bill Shorten was, what a genius the campaign was, and how magnificent the policies were. I mean, the bottom line is this: they're rewriting history after the event. The policies,
but they do it every time, and both sides do it, Andrew. You know that both sides do that. The thing that concerns me is, you know, Anthony Albanese's not leading, despite him taking some sort of comfort out of today's poll. The fact of the matter is the policies are still the same, and people are trying to justify their positions on policies that were bad.
I think that's right, except I do think the economy, stupid. The economy.
Yeah,
and you can even be beaten by a bad opposition if you don't get the economy right. Michael Kroger, Jim Molan, he's back. Now, I think he should never have left. I mean, he was sabotaged by the left wing of the New South Wales Liberals, the Michael Photius type of people. He dropped from the winnable position. He's now come back to fill the position of Arthur Sinodinos, who for some reason has been gifted the ambassadorship to Washington, even though I don't think he's up to the job. To replace Sinodinos, a Turnbull supporter, with Molan, an Abbott man, this is good news, isn't it?
Well, at least John Howard thought Arthur was up to the job, by the way, for a decade. So putting that aside, look, what can we say?
Not ambassador to Washington.
Chief of Staff, John. You'd need to be good to be John Howard's Chief of Staff for a long time. Let me tell you. Jim Molan, magnificent. What a great result. Congratulations to the New South Wales Division for putting this man back in the Senate. He's an outstanding Australian. And how lucky is the Liberal Party to be represented by people like Molan?
Yes, but how much of it... Yeah, I like the way you're talking now, but why... What do you make of the decision to dump him in the first place?
No offence to party officials. The bottom line is to have someone of this man's extraordinary achievement is a godsend for the Liberal Party across the country.
Okay? Yeah, well, what do you make of the decision to dump him in the first place?
We've all got complaints about pre-selections. If we're going to do that, I'll be here for a month. I'll be here for a month telling you about pre-selections I was unhappy with. Of course, there are results that you don't agree with. The bottom line is he's back. He's going to be there for over 2.5 years.
Michael Costa, name for me the 3 people above Jim Molan who had the prime seats, prime position in the Senate ticket at the last election and got in while Jim was dropped.
Oh, I couldn't name those people, Andrew, and you know that.
That's my point. That's my point.
But I make this point. Look, it is a good decision, and I think the Prime Minister has a responsibility in this. To his credit, he stood up for him.
Yes.
And it does mask problems, Michael Kroger, in the New South Wales Liberal Party. We saw what happened in Tony Abbott's seat, where rank and file Liberals were campaigning against Tony Abbott.
You might have a few problems in your own party up there, son. Don't worry about us. I think you might have a few problems.
Well, we know we've got problems. The Labor Party's definitely got problems. We know that. But so has the Liberal Party.
Good. Right. I think they're in government up there, aren't they? Now,
Michael Kroger, you were on the ABC board trying to get some reforms there. Since then, the ABC is completely out of control. Tomorrow I'll have a fantastic story about one of his programs next year. If you don't believe there are problems with the ABC, watch tomorrow. I think they'll be having another think about one of those programs when I'm through with it. What do you make of the ABC Managing Director, after a whole week of thinking about it, still doesn't know whether it was wrong to broadcast 4 people endorsing political violence, including one saying, hey, why don't women kill people they think are rapists?
Yeah. Well, Anderson, his response is appalling. And I must say, I'm very disappointed in Paul Fletcher, the Minister, by the way, who said there were significant community concerns. Community concerns about a program advocating murder, violence, arson, the abolition of the police force,
and in the context of bushfires, by the way,
the abolition of incarceration. In other words, no jails.
No police.
We just advocate summary justice. No one disagreed with that person.
No.
This was probably the low point. I was trying to think of the lowest point in broadcasting in the history of the ABC.
How about early this year?
Mistakes, premeditated.
How about early this year, an ABC comedian pretending to defecate on a print of a white woman's face, giving the audience the raised finger and saying, F you, whitey. That's pretty bad.
Obviously disgusting. But here was someone advocating murder. I mean, murder. I mean, and the ABC, where are the ABC board? Where's the ABC chairman, quite frankly, on this? I mean, I had to make some comments. But, this board is doing nothing, and quite frankly, they should stand up and put a stop to this disgraceful broadcasting.
And the government should grow a pair and say something. Michael Costa?
Look, Andrew, I think the real problem here is not... what was broadcast obviously is a problem, but there's a prior problem. I mean, who put together this panel in the first place? Where's the balance in it?
Correct.
I thought Q&A was supposed to have... a contest of ideas, questions and answers. I mean, this is just straight out propaganda.
Contest of ideas.
And I think that's where I'd be looking at this programming issue of, who are you putting on these panels? Why isn't there any balance? How does that conform to the Charter? And start dealing with the problem at that level too.
Yeah, I think Michael Costa's onto something there, because I think it wasn't a contest of ideas, it was a contest of outrage. Who could get the most social media buzz, who could say the most outrageous things, and no one dared say no. And so it was a contest, against your murder, I'll go arson. Against your arson, I'll go other violence.
How did it happen that there were'nt 4 Conservative women there?
Advocating
peace, security, law and order.
Or 2, thank you. But this is the thing, Michael Kroger, because I think it ended up with a panel that intimidated even Fran Kelly.
Yeah, well, and Fran put in a very poor performance. I think she's even acknowledged that. But the other thing was, when Eloardi was advocating murder, not a single panellist expressed outrage, and I don't think anyone in the audience, you know, those 40% of Liberals who were sitting there every week, not even any of those were outraged. Liberals. Well, we know there's, you know, two Liberals and about 100 of the others, but where is the ABC board? I mean, quite frankly...
Where is the Communications Minister, Paul Fletcher, who to this day has not said a word of criticism?
Where are the Channel 9 newspapers expressing outrage, by the way? Have they even covered it?
Well, the other point to make here, gentlemen, is that the ABC, which is a massive media behemoth, got so groupthink and is so disciplined that only one person I know of has given only a hint of criticism about what happened. Only one of all their presenters, and I just think that is a disgrace. Michael Costa, Michael Kroger, thank you both so much for your time.